Hello, class. Welcome to week 6 of MAIG 503 International Social Research Methods. I'm your instructor, Dr. Heath Hooper again, and this is week 6. It's hard to believe we're already in week 6. Just this week and next week left for this course, and then you'll be completed. So I hope that it's been an excellent experience thus far. I know that it's challenging. It's a challenging topic when discussing research methodology and prescribing your own research topics. So I do hope that it's been beneficial, and I hope my feedback has been helpful along the way. So we're going to dig into week 6. This is the PowerPoint presentation that we're going to discuss, and I'll go ahead and share the screen. We are going to discuss chapter 14. We're going to talk about some coding and some central tendency measures, mean, median, and mode. And kind of recap some of the topics that we've already discussed and move forward. So with that being said, we'll go ahead and get started. So with this chapter, quantitative data analysis, we're going to talk a little bit about more so on the quantitative approach, and then, like I said, measures of central tendency, our mean, median, and mode, and move on into a little bit else with a coding and so forth. So starting out, a quantification analysis is the numbering representation and manipulation of observations for the purpose of describing and explaining the phenomena that those observations reflect. Excuse my jumbleness there. So quantification analysis. So quantification of the data, quantitative analysis that we're discussing here. We're taking our numbers, we're representing those, we're manipulating the observations for the purpose of explaining what is going on in the research study. More so, here's some examples of how we would quantify our data. This is also in relation to coding. So age. Age is very straightforward. 1 year old, 1 year old. Okay, same number throughout. With sex, male and female, you're going to give a male as, for example, the number 1, and you're going to code females as 2. Political affiliation, 1, 2, 3. Regions of the country, 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so anytime we're doing quantification studies such as this, we're going to code our variables into specific coding categories. So coding categories using well-developed coding scheme, generating codes from your data, from what represents those. Here's student responses that can be coded into financial concerns. Tuition is too high. That's a financial concern. Here's some other examples. These can be coded so that each one is representative of a number. Codebook construction. Let's first define codebook. It's the document used in data processing and analysis that tells the location of different data items in a data file. The codebook also identifies the location of data items and the meaning of the codes used. Data entry, we're entering our data. We're ready for the research. Researchers need to convert data into a machine-readable format so that computers can read and manipulate the data. So when we're inputting our data, you use a software specific, could differ between different opportunities there, but data entry is converting our data into a readable format. Here's a type of analysis. Univariate analysis is the analysis of a single variable for purposes of description. For example, frequency distribution, averages, measure of dispersion. Example, gender, the number of men in a sample population and the number of women in a sample population. That is an example of a univariate analysis. Distribution. Frequency distribution is the most common. It's a description of the number of times the various attributes of a variable are observed in a sample. So just a way of studying there in the methodology portion. When discovering and discussing central tendency, we're discussing the mean, mode, and median. So mean, as you know, is an average computed by summing the values of several different observations by dividing the number of observations. So if we have 10 observations, and we divide it by 10, okay, the average score, that will equal, 10. However, it may vary amongst your observations and the number of observations there. So we're averaging out. So your total number divided by the number of participants there. Mode is an average, or average representing the most frequently observed value or attribute. And median is an average representing the value of the middle case in a rank ordered by a set of observations. Median is the middle number. Mode is the most occurring, and mean is your average. That's an easy way of remembering those. Here's an example. Determine the mean for age. So age 13, we have 3. Okay, 3 people. So 13 times 3 is 39. 14, we have 4. 56, 90, 128, 68, 54, 57. All right, that equals 492 divided by our total number, which is 31, equals 15.87, plus 0.50 is equal to 16.37. That's our arithmetic average. All right. Determine the median. The median is the middle number, so 16.31 would be the middle number there. And then mode, most frequent age is 16, occurs the most. Dispersion, the distribution of values around some central value such as an average. So the standard deviation is a measure of dispersion around the mean. Is calculated so that approximately 68% of the cases will lie within plus or minus 1 standard deviation from the mean, 95% within 2 and 99.9% within 3 standard deviations. So your standard deviation is important when discussing a quantitative analysis. Here's a high standard deviation spread out values, 68% of values here. The mean is 100. Here's our dispersion of values, 68%. A low standard deviation, tightly clustered values, right here, the mean is 70, all right, but it's a tighter window, okay? This is more broad, this is tighter. Continuous and discrete variables. A continuous variable is a variable whose attributes form a steady progression such as age or income. Discrete variable is a variable whose attributes are separate from one another or discontinuous, such as gender or religious affiliation. So continuous is a steady progression. Age, it continues to increase. Income continues to increase. Discrete does not change, okay? You do not change the variable there. Okay, so that is chapter 14 for week 6. The mean, median, and mode, a lot of that stuff deals straight with quantitative studies. So if you're doing a quantitative study it's definitely important to incorporate a lot of those things we discussed in this chapter and to look further at the chapter as it goes into further detail in terms of coding categories, etc. So questions, let me know. heath.hooper@cui.edu. Make sure you email me and ask me. I hope you guys have a blessed week. And we just have one more week left to go with our presentation overviews for the chapters. So I will see you next week, and I hope you all have a blessed week. Thank you so much.